This was the worst trip of my life. Picture this. It's February, the season of love, and I'm buzzing with excitement. My boyfriend Mark and I had planned this amazing group trip to Brazil. Sun, beaches, and romance. It was going to be perfect. But I had no idea this Valentine's Day would become a nightmare I'd never forget. So here's how it all started. Johanna and I have been best friends since middle school. We've had our ups and downs, but overall, she was someone you wanted to be friends with. She knew how to make everyone feel special. Back in high school, we had a falling out for a while because, I'll admit it, I was jealous of her. She was the girl who flirted with everyone, the one all the boys wanted. She eventually got into a serious relationship, and I started dating Mark around the same time. Her boyfriend broke up with her, though, and she was devastated. Fast forward to now, she was still heartbroken. When I told her about our Brazil trip, she got excited. But then reality hit her. Her ex wasn't coming. She started crying about how she'd be stuck at home while everyone else was having fun, and I felt bad. So, being the good friend I thought I was, I asked Mark if she could still come along. "We'll get separate rooms," I said. "She'll just hang out with us during the day." And Mark, being the nice guy, agreed. Big mistake. At first, everything seemed fine. We were soaking up the sun, exploring Brazil, and living our best lives. But then, I started noticing little things. Johanna was giggling at all of Mark's jokes that weren't even funny. She'd touch his arm casually, lean a little too close when they talked. So at dinner that night, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. Johanna had been acting strange all day, clinging to Mark as if she needed his validation to breathe. We sat at a table overlooking the beach, candles flickering in the warm evening breeze. Johanna, already a few drinks deep, giggled and leaned closer to Mark. "Mark, you're such a lifesaver. Honestly, I don't know how I'd survive without you on this trip." I felt my jaw tighten as I stabbed my fork into my salad. Mark chuckled nervously, glancing at me. "I'm just glad you're feeling better, Johanna," he said. Then it happened. Johanna's chair scraped back as she stood, swaying slightly. Ugh, this chair is so uncomfortable. "Mark, can I sit on your lap? Just for a minute?" "Sure, just for a minute." I mean, now when I look at this, I can't believe I allowed that. I nearly choked on my water. My eyes widened as I looked at Mark, hoping he'd say no, but he laughed awkwardly and gestured for her to sit down. She plopped down in his lap, laughing as if it was the most natural thing in the world. I felt the heat rise to my cheeks as I glared at Mark, but he avoided eye contact. Later, when I brought it up, he shrugged. "She was drunk, Lola. It didn't mean anything. You're overthinking it. Let it go." I wanted to scream, but instead I swallowed my frustration and tried to move on. Looking back, I should have trusted my gut. And then came Valentine's Day. I had told Johanna earlier in the day that I wanted to spend the evening alone with Mark. She seemed to understand and even encouraged me, saying, "You two need some romance time." But just minutes before our dinner reservation, she broke down crying, full-on sobbing about how much she missed her ex and how she couldn't handle being alone. Mark, of course, rushed to comfort her, leaving me standing there feeling like the villain. And somehow, she ended up tagging along to what was supposed to be our romantic dinner. It was so awkward. Johanna kept interrupting our conversations to talk about her ex or how hard it was to be alone. Mark tried to reassure her, but I could see it. The dynamic was shifting. She was inserting herself between us, and Mark didn't seem to notice. I couldn't believe how stupid can you be to not notice those little things? And then came the texts. Johanna started messaging Mark directly. She'd thank him for being so sweet, or joke about how he was such a catch. At first, I tried to ignore it. But when I confronted Mark, he said, "Lola, you're the one who invited her. She's just looking for comfort. Why are you overreacting?" Overreacting? Me? I was connecting the dots, and it wasn't looking good. One night, I caught her texting him late at night, saying how lucky I was to have him. And Mark? He didn't think it was inappropriate. "She's just being friendly," he said. Friendly? My gut was screaming at me, but Mark kept dismissing me, saying I was imagining things. I thought Johanna would never do anything with my boyfriend. I gaslighted myself and convinced myself that she was only lonely and wanted a male company. But at this point, I felt like I was losing my mind. Every time I tried to talk to Mark, he made me feel like I was the problem. Johanna, on the other hand, was playing the perfect victim. "I'm sorry if I'm making things weird," she'd say with teary eyes. But the next day, she'd be right back at her little games. The breaking point? The last night of our trip. I'd gone to grab something from the hotel lobby. When I came back, the door to our room was slightly open. My heart sank as I heard whispering and laughter. I pushed the door open and saw them, Johanna and Mark, tangled up in bed together. I froze, unable to breathe. They didn't even notice me standing there. I packed my bags, booked the earliest flight home, and left without saying a word. I blocked both of them on everything and tried to move on with my life. They both tried to contact me and imagine they pretended that nothing happened, that they didn't understand what is going on and why did I leave. Eventually, they stopped calling and texting me, and I tried to put my life back together. I thought this only happens in movies, and it is so obvious from the beginning that the girl would steal boyfriend. But that is not the worst part. A few months after returning home, I thought I was beginning to move on. Until one day, while casually scrolling through Instagram, I saw it. Johanna and Mark, smiling ear to ear, posed against a picturesque sunset backdrop. The caption read, "Forever my person are engaged." My breath hitched. If that wasn't enough, a few weeks later came the announcement. Johanna was pregnant. I did the math. The timeline didn't lie. My mind flashed back to that night in Brazil, and it all clicked. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was irreversible. It started their new chapter together during a trip that was supposed to be about love and trust between Mark and me. So, what did I learn from the Valentine's Day trip from hell? Trust your instincts. Don't ignore red flags. And most importantly, don't invite your flirty best friend on a couple's trip. Some people aren't who they pretend to be. Thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments if you've ever had a betrayal like this. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And remember, choose carefully who is worth your time, kindness, and love.